afternoon. Chris Wallace here, advisor to men, to those willing to widen their perspective, bringing you another message of power and love in service of meaning and freedom. If I could have just a wee moment of your time, I'd like to share something with you I think that you'll appreciate. A man came to me and asked, how do I get past the wanting and the longing? I find myself in more or less constant state of fear, and I can feel it in my body. I want to break the downward spiral after a loss of attachment. I went through a divorce and I lost my tribe. Now, if you have an ounce of compassion in you, then you'll have a sense of this man's pain. So the question is, how do we recover from a divorce or a breakup? This is a question for the ages, as we all need to belong to each other. When we first arrive in the world, we immediately attach to a caregiver. Usually it's mom, but it can be anyone. In the old days, we're probably brought up collectively by many of the women from our tribe. The Israeli kibbutz was such a system tested in recent times. I think it went on until the 1980s, and those kids did just as well or better than those raised in a typical modern nuclear family. Well, let's go a little further back in our recent history. John Bowlby established attachment theory around the time of the Second World War. Mary Ainsworth was his assistant, and she did the strange situation studies and identified attachment styles. Harlow demonstrated with his young rhesus monkeys that affection underwrote closeness. Since then, we realize we have the same attachment needs from cradle to grave. Never changes. Get this. In 1995, scholars Roy Baumeister and Mark Leary published a meta-analysis on attachment. That's when you look at all the attachment stuff out there. And that study has been cited more than 25,000 times last I checked. Baumeister says that the research changed their view of the world. Neither one of him, Baumeister or Leary, realized how much the need to belong operated in every corner of a person's psyche in all manner of their behavior. The need to belong is behind most human activity, driving both thinking and feeling. More belongingness brings positive emotion. Less belongingness brings negative emotion. And this is evidence that the whole emotion system is geared to make you connect with others, they say. I've even heard Baumeister refer to us humans as herd animals. Ponder that for a moment. Then we come a little more recent in the 1990s, into the 2000s, and Stephen Porges found that when he researched the function of each part of the vagus nerve, which connects the brainstem to your body's organs and skin, even your testicles and your stomach, when we're unsure about anything, we look to each other's faces for reassurance. He calls it the social engagement system. And the same way a toddler will look to mommy before risking a new behavior, you do the same as an adult. Think of when you're in a bar, and you're with your buddy and you're talking to this new dude, and the new dude is saying some weird things, and how you look at your friend and, what the fuck is with this guy? You give him that look. It's the same thing. That's the social engagement system. It never goes away. So the paradox is that we have a self-interested brain and a need to belong to each other. Those two things are always competing within our brain and body. So what do we do after a breakup? Well, first you need to realize that your stable attachment platform has been compromised temporarily. The very essence of your need to belong has been ripped away. And people often describe this as having a hole in their heart. And despite their outward appearances, their inner sense of belonging and reassurance is temporarily missing. And God damn it, it's painful. It's even fearful, and it has to be. For belonging lessens fear, while less belonging creates fear. It's a temporary loss of faith in the future. That's what it is. Remember, it's all usually because one person, sometimes it's both, but usually it's just one person chose to disengage. Suddenly, you might be judging yourself inadequate just because of a singular decision. Well, I say you're being too hard on yourself. But there's more. And it has to do with both the blessings of pair bonding and some of its faults. On ne toutes les qualités de nos défauts, the French say. We all have the qualities of our faults. Relationships tend to isolate people within the confines of the pair bond. And I contend that we were never meant to exist as pairs of people wandering the earth, holding hands as if we're in the Garden of Eden. Beautiful metaphor. It has its purpose, but it's not reality. In fact, we're tribal, as Baumeister says. We're herd animals, but in different ways, mostly between men and female. Dunbar's number is the number of persons with whom we can maintain relationships. And the average for most people is about 150. So let me ask you, how many friends and acquaintances were you in touch with when you broke up? You see, the problem with pair bonds or nuclear family in general is its tendency to isolate, restricting you to the people in your immediate vicinity. And we do this for safety, for economics, for time. And there's also her nesting priorities, because typically the caregiver will gather resources around her to sustain her investment in the children that she has. And so she often discourages contact outside the home. And it may not be explicit, but it's often implied. She just may not encourage it at all. And in time, a man may find that all his social engagement eggs are in the one basket, so to speak. She can handle this more easily, for the small group is natural to most women. She usually has like 1 or 2 or maybe up to 5 besties, these pals from the sisterhood. And she guards those friendships jealously, and they use each other for emotional regulation. And that's her world, her friends and her family. Men don't have that. They tend to operate in bigger groups, having contacts with many different tribes of men, some at work, some at church, some at community or sporting or hobbyist pursuits, even political and community service. Our male relationships are usually much more shallow. It's one of the reasons why men build culture and women stress test it. All this to say, the idea of devoting all of your time to family and spouse goes directly against how most men are made. To counter the extraordinary influence of the feminine in a man's life, he must first realize and show a little appreciation for her adaptation, a little compassion. It's no sense complaining about your history of a smothering mother to rid yourself of a dependency on the myth of unconditional love as an adult. It doesn't make any sense. It's too extreme. It's throwing out the baby with the bathwater. Call it that if you like. No. We needed mother's reassurance, her nurturance as children, her succorance, but not now, not as men. It's all of our birthrights to love and be loved. Many men get hung up on this one. And let me give you some perspective. I'd like you to notice how I said that. I said to love and be loved. I didn't say be loved and to love. There's a significant difference. Masculine order has to prevail here. Men don't become men until they reverse the flow. That is, until a man realizes that unburdened by the caregiver spirit, he possesses a great reserve of love and power within him already. Little boys need love under the succorance of their caregivers. Adult males give love. For each of them hold a share of the reservoir of love and power connected to all of humankind. And your task is to tap into this love and power and dial it out for yourself and those around you as a path to meaning and freedom. It's to discover your true self. These are your veritable talents accorded to you by nature or the universe or the heavens under God. And to use these talents in service of life and love. It is by making a difference in our lives, in the lives of those around us, that we find meaning. In fact, it's this process which sets us free. Freedom from what, you can ask? Well, from the very tyranny of our existence. For life, for a lot of it, is suffering. Now, the last stage of life, according to Erickson, is ego integrity versus despair. As we look back in satisfaction at a life well lived, or if we look forward with regret at the horror of impending death. And at this time, few will focus on not having been loved satisfactorily, though many will wish they could have loved others more while they had the chance. When a man stops looking for love and instead uses his power to make a difference in the world while serving, solving, emanating, radiating from within his self, the good he was destined by the stars to share, he may find something. He may find that he is loved deeply. Let me repeat, no one gets to the end of life and wishes that they were loved more. To a person, they wish they could have loved those in their life while they had the chance. Living is giving, and so is dying, and you'll have to trust me on that part. So ask yourself, when you are forlorn, when you're hurting a little bit, when you doubt if it's all worthwhile, ask yourself this: what am I doing to serve people with my talents? Ask that and go and do that. Trust me, brother, the rest will take care of itself. It's the only way. Thank you for listening. Once again, Chris Wallace here. You can find me at advisortomen.com, where my simple little website, or you can join the board of directors masterminds, where you stand with other men in mutual support of each other's quest to live better lives. I'll leave a link in the description if you like. And if this helps you, go ahead, subscribe, leave a comment below. In the meantime, until next time, you stay powerful, true and free.